else, what me have you do? Trust you, know you are the one, no two. When I fought.
Hi guys, today we are going to be making a handbag. I know, girl, I just did shoes, I was doing dresses, now I'm going to do a handbag. What is she going to do next? I don't know. But we're going to be using the quarter leather Kalina handbag pattern to make this really cute everyday crossbody that I can just wear on a whim, you know, put my phone in there, lip gloss, keep it pushing. I did get this amazing steal on fabric from my local like resource exchange store. That was only, I think, $29 for like 9 feet, which was amazing. And then I also got all of my hardware, which is gold and very heavy duty from Buckle Guy. I absolutely recommend getting your hardware from Buckle Guy. I'm not an affiliate or associated. They just got some good stuff. So if you want to check it out, I've added some links below if you'd like to make it as well. So let's get into it. Alrighty, girls, it's voiceover Jewel. So to start off this project, I started by rolling out my leather and marking on the face side where each of my pattern pieces would be, and then cutting out on those marked lines. Also marking any die lines or any additional places that I would need to make additional markings as well. Okay. So I started cutting everything out, and as you originally saw, I was pinning out or like marking out where each pattern piece was on the front side of the leather and then cutting it out that way. But that's just not working. I don't like the way it looks. So I came up with a new technique. I tape each pattern piece down with clear Scotch tape and then cut it away from the pattern piece so I don't have any marks from the pin, as well as I'm able to go ahead and cut out like my die lines for rivets or anything else. So that's what's been working with me so far. I'm gonna go ahead and cut the rest of them out. I'm gonna probably go through a lot of tape, but it's worth it. So. And that I did, because girl, right after I said this, I ran out of tape. But this is a good method. So I used the tape to tape down my pattern pieces and then cut around it, and also used it to cut out any dies for making holes or anything else. This pattern also called for cutting, I think, 2 feet long of 3/4 inch strips. So that's what I'm doing now, marking them out and then cutting along those lines. The same thing goes for these, still using my pattern piece as a die line and making sure I cut around it, but I marked it on the back side this time. Now this might be my best little maneuver. If you don't have the tape, just mark it on the back and cut it. Hi guys, I'm back. It's a new day and we're about to start sewing all of these pieces together to see how this bag is looking. I'm hoping that I can put it through my sewing machine, but I did buy stuff to hand sew it, which I'm ready to do for certain parts, but I do want to machine sew other parts. So while I'm attaching the front part of the bag to I don't know what this is called, but like this kind of like bias tape part to make that edge, I want to do all that by machine. So we're gonna start with that. Now we are getting into the big leagues, girl. It's time to start really making a bag. So I clipped on my bias strips to the front and back of the bag using these little clips here. And if you really want a pro tip, put a little bit of leather between the clips, and then it won't make any marks on the face of the fabric if that's the issue for you, because you can't use pins since it will puncture it. This actually did fit under my machine fine, so that part did well. I also wanted to get a little taste of how it would look, but I'm gonna let live action Jewel tell you her thoughts once the bag was put together at this point. It looks fine. It's just a little like floppy. Like I don't like how floppy it is. And if it's gonna be floppy, I want it to be intentionally floppy, you know? But I'm gonna still add the zipper and see how it looks before I actually sew it to the gusset. So that's what I did. Again, I'm adding the zipper placket and sewing it with my machine, which does work, and I do recommend, so you don't have to do a lot of hand sewing. I also marked the center of my little gusset piece for the zipper and the center of my little zipper placket. I made sure I had them right together real nice and tight and clipped it all the way down before sewing it again with my machine. I'm not gonna lie to you, this bag looks awful. Like, it looks really, it's not awful, but it's just really bad. Like my stitching is bad on it, especially trying to attach the zipper to here. The stitching is really bad because I tried to like stitch it with my machine rather than hand stitching it. And I'm just gonna chalk this up to a first draft because this is not gonna execute how I want it to execute it, especially if I'm gonna wear this every day. So I tried to cheat it by not using veg tan and stitching it with my machine, but that's obviously not gonna work. So I need to go to the store now and get some veg tan leather and start over. Alrighty guys, we're back and I have new leather. It's this pretty brown, looks really nice, and I think this is what I need. I wasn't able to find out if it's really a veg tan like I wanted, but it does have that same stiffness and it's not like too flimsy. So I think this will work. So we're gonna do this entire process over again of cutting out all the pieces and then try to move on from there. You heard it, girl. We got to start this over, but we're going to fast forward some of these parts because we got stuff to do. You got a busy day. You know, you got stuff to do. I ain't trying to waste your time. So we're going to keep going. But now we're going to add some bag feet to the bottom of this bag. I really wanted to add some height and a little bit of oomph and luxe to my bag. So I just punched those in, pulled down the prongs and made sure they were in there really, really good, as you can see. After that, I put glue on the back of this bag where those pronged feet were and on the bag stiffener. So this glue connects on command, so once they touch each other, it's like a 100% seal. I also tried to really smooth that out to make sure there's no air bubbles, and as you saw, it has a great stiffness and like luxe to it, which I really like. Then I went in with just my leather cement and started adding a lining to this portion of the bag. I wanted to make sure that when you look inside, you don't see the bag stiffener and everything else, but that it's covered. So after doing that, I pressed them both together and I wanted to make sure that it was really smooth again, making sure there's no air bubbles and trying to smooth that out as much as possible. After going over with the mallet, girl, because I ain't got no roller, I started to bend it to the shape of the bag to try to make that connection of what it would look like. So all of my pieces are cut out. Everything is done. This is put together. And I was looking at it and I feel like it might be a little plain with just this on this. It just feels kind of plain. And somehow I want to integrate more of this light color, since my straps are this light color, into the front. But I don't know how, and I don't know. I'm not really worried about it. So the first thing I'm gonna do is sew like these little, I wouldn't call them bias strips, but these little 1/4" strips onto here like I did last time. But we're gonna punch out each hole on both sides and then sew them together. This is your sign not to cheat the process, because you're gonna end up doing double the work just like me. But I went in with like my little edge tool to make a really straight line of where I want my punches to be. And then I punched out each hole, girl. Each hole with a diamond stitch chisel, and you can see my hands was hurting, but it was done. As I'm sewing this side to the face, I'm thinking that I might need to use a different leather, because I think this might be a little too stiff, because on the sides it's beginning to like crack and wrinkle in these curves. So I think to tie it all together with the strap, I'm gonna use this fabric. And we were off to actually hand sewing. So I did use the fabric that I mentioned, and I started hand sewing it to the face of the bag. I would absolutely recommend watching this quarter leather video, how to stitch without a leather stitching pony, because it really helps. Honestly, just go to their page. Like they have everything you need if you're a beginner or if you're advanced. So definitely do that. But with our little strip sewn to the front and the back of the bag, this is what our girl was looking like so far. And now it is time to add some branding. I got a little logo stamp from Amazon and some gold foil, and I stamped it on there, and I was shaking in my boots, but girl, it came out so good. Then I started sewing the front and the back together for the gusset of the zipper, and I felt so comfy cozy doing this. Don't I look so comfy cozy? I was sitting by a fire and everything. The zipper is attached to the front and the back. Beautiful, beautiful. The only thing that I am not crazy over is this stitch right here. I was thinking of adding a little strip of leather to go on top of this seam just to cover it up for all the stitching, but at the same time I don't like that. I'm gonna cut some leather out, then I'm gonna paste that on top, and then we're also going to paste the front and the back to the gusset. So now we are on to the next step, which is really the last step of this build, which is pasting our little strips to the gusset of the bag. Again, I went in with my contact cement and I put it on the little strip, as you can see, and I also put it on the edge of my gusset to where I knew that strip would be, but not too far in, because then you have glue residue inside the bag. And when I tell y'all, that glue snaps together like little magnets. What? And look at our beautiful bag. And now, girls, we are to the official last step of this bag. So I'm taking all of my strap components and gluing them together using the leather cement. I have my little spatula. I'm spreading out my glue, and then I'm gonna paste them together and make sure there's nice and no air bubbles and they are nice and smushed. I did this for the whole extension of the crossbody, so adding glue along the whole thing, and then again doing those same steps of smushing this together. And now, girls, you're not gonna hear this, but it's one last part that I did not film, but I did add grommets all the way down the strap of the bag so that the buckle would have somewhere to put the little prong into, and for a little decor, a little decoration. But I'm gonna add a video if you want to do the same thing. Now it is time for the reveal.